This is Daily Armenia, CivilNet's daily news digest. Here's what's making headlines in Armenia today. A reference in Armenia's constitution to the country's declaration of independence from the Soviet Union does not mean the declaration is legally part of the constitution, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan argued today in a statement marking the declaration's 34th anniversary. This does not mean that the entire content of the Declaration of Independence is included in the constitution, or that the content of these two documents are identical. Pashinyan's remarks are likely linked to Azerbaijan's demand for Armenia to remove references in its constitution to the declaration, which calls for the unification of Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh. Baku says it will not normalize relations with Yerevan if that does not happen, but changing the constitution would require a national referendum, and there is no guarantee any proposed changes would pass. But even though Pashinyan rejects changing the constitution to comply with Azerbaijan's demands, that does not mean he has ruled out changing it for other reasons. As he said on Constitution Day last month, we need a new constitution, which the people will consider to be what they created, what they accepted, and believe that what is written in it is their idea of the state they created and the relations between people and citizens in that state. Before that, Pashinyan had ordered an ad hoc government body to start drafting a new constitution, setting a deadline of early 2027. Russian President Vladimir Putin called Pashinyan today to discuss his talks earlier this week with Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev in Baku. Armenia's readout of the call was sparse, but indicated Pashinyan and Putin agreed to meet at the earliest convenient opportunity to discuss relations. For its part, Russia's readout went into more detail, reiterating Moscow's readiness to continue assisting Yerevan and Baku in ongoing efforts to normalize relations, legally define their border, and reopen regional transit routes. Earlier this week, Putin made a rare trip abroad for talks with Aliyev, following up on the two countries' declaration on allied cooperation, which they signed just days before Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Pashinyan's call with Putin comes as Armenia's relations with Russia continue to fray, most recently with an unusually strong war of words between the two countries this week. That included Russia's top diplomat accusing Armenia of sabotaging the Kremlin's efforts to mediate a normalization deal, which prompted an Armenian government spokesperson to blast what she called false, clearly biased, and often disrespectful comments by Russian officials regarding Armenia. The prominent Azerbaijani researcher, peace advocate, and analyst Bahruz Samadov has been detained in Baku, reportedly on treason charges, marking the latest crackdown on independent voices in the increasingly authoritarian country. Samadov, a doctoral student at Charles University in Prague, was in Baku visiting family when he was detained earlier this week, according to friends. He is apparently facing charges of treason, Samadov's grandmother later told Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty's Azerbaijani service. Azerbaijani officials had not confirmed Samadov's detention until he appeared in court late this afternoon and was sentenced to a 4-month pretrial detention. Prior to his detainment Wednesday, Samadov contributed to a number of regional media outlets and as recently as January joined CivilNet for a Russian-language Skype interview in the run-up to Azerbaijan's latest presidential elections. At the time, he noted that the post-war euphoria in Azerbaijan was waning, leaving people with more questions for the government and growing dissatisfaction. RFE-RL's report initially indicated Samadov's charges were related to his electronic correspondence with Armenians. That passage, however, was later deleted without explanation. Samadov's detention was quickly condemned by a number of prominent academics, civil society activists, peace advocates, and reporters from across the region. Samadov's detention comes amid an ongoing crackdown in Azerbaijan to silence opposition politicians and independent journalists, even as the country gears up to host this year's COP29 Global Climate Summit in November. Take a look at our latest dispatch from the border town of Mehri in Armenia's far south. Our team traveled there to meet with Karo Karapetyan, who owns and operates one of the country's largest olive groves. We joined Karo to talk about his work pioneering olive production in Armenia and what comes next for his business. You can find the full report up now on our website at civilnet.am or through the link in the video description below. And finally, the CivilNet number of the day is 130. That's because yesterday was the 130th anniversary of the birth of Hovannes Derisahakyan, better known as Admiral Isakov. He led the successful naval landing on the German-occupied Kerch Peninsula in Crimea during World War II, and was later named as the first admiral of the Soviet fleet. The occasion was marked in Yerevan by a gathering at his statue along his namesake boulevard, as well as at his grave in Moscow. And as always, please follow CivilNet for the latest news and independent reporting from our contributors on the ground here in Armenia.